If you could change any choices you have ever made, would you? You can always make another choice and change the course of your success. Everyone has the potency to make inspired choices. Get ready to listen, share, and experience the creativity that is you. Now, here is the host of Inspired Choices radio show, Holographist coach, Christine McIver.
Well, welcome everyone. Yes, I am Christine, and tonight we have a very exciting show, one that we've been trying to do for a couple of weeks. It's quite funny, but tonight is the night we are on tap. I have Megan Sillito, who is my co-host tonight, and we're talking about speaking up, your prosperity creation on tap. Megan, I'm so glad you're in the house.
Woo, woo! Yes, I'm in the house, and I'm very excited because, it took 2 weeks in part because I apparently wasn't ready to speak up yet. So,
you needed to get those vocal cords cleared.
Exactly.
That's so funny. So I'm just going to set the stage as to what we're talking about. So this is the copy that we came up with. If you struggle with creation or don't believe you have gifts waiting to come out of hiding, this show will be for you. Speaking up with what you know can be, if you choose, to be your creation funnel. Are you ready to actually change your reality, change your finances, and change your level of creation? So Megan and I are going to tap into this. This is something that we both have talked about. I don't even know how many times, Megan, that we've talked about how much this speaking and showing up has changed things for us. And I really want to kind of go back to the beginning. You've been in business now for, 25 years?
Yes.
We had 25 years. Okay, cool. So you've actually been on the radio with me since June of 2015. And we met in Vancouver, I think it was in February of 2015. So we're coming up on our 5-year anniversary, Megan. We'll have to go away on a vacation together.
Oh, maybe I could join you in the Bahamas.
That would be awesome. Yes, come to the Bahamas. So you've been doing the radio, and you've been getting speaking gigs, and things have really been expanding for you. And I mean, you keep choosing it, and you keep leveling up and leveling up. What was it about radio that first started to speak to you when you tapped me on the shoulder that day?
Well, I have built my whole business with my mouth. Truly. With my big mouth. Because just basically saying what I do, what I'm passionate about, and luckily those things are the same. So, as I'm talking about what I do, people naturally get curious because I get so excited about it. And then when I first launched my Rapid Eye practice 25 years ago-ish, actually 25 years ago in October, I was teaching this class called Life Skills, and I was teaching universal principles, which I really just immediately fell in love with. I think I've always been so curious about it, even as a little kid, about how the universe works. And so I would just talk about what I was passionate about. And this community class that I started built to where 50 to 70 people were coming every week. It filled my clientele. It filled my workshops. It was just burgeoning. But the one thing that was a little bit of a drawback about that is that it was in Salt Lake City. And so I taught 50 out of 52 weeks a year. And so I was kind of grounded in Salt Lake City, if you can believe it. Me being in one place for 50 weeks didn't really make Megan that happy. So I was looking for a way to open my big mouth in another way and to be able to do it from wherever I was in the world, to create community. And also it was around the time that I got this little hit, because everything I had built was grassroots before that, and just locally. But I was just feeling like I just feel this sort of global thing. Like I'd always wanted to travel. I'd never let myself. And so I'm looking at asking questions around building a global business. And so I think, okay, well, gosh, well, how's that going to happen? It's like, oh, open your big mouth again. So, like, I was looking for a way to open my mouth again and create and generate and contribute. That was the other thing about the class. I only did it on appreciation or donation. And as you know, this radio is such an it's such a service act in a certain way, because we're paying to be on the radio. We're investing in our time and energy and marketing to show up and be here to give content, to give tools, but also to say who we are and what we do. And so, that's the fact that this network has a chat room that could create community inside of it, and people could talk and have those and be able to speak up even if they weren't ready to speak up by calling in, right? That there was still a place for them to speak up too, so that we can expand the conversation of consciousness. So I was looking for a global platform to continue, like, opening my mouth.
Mm-hmm. That's so funny. I love that you said that. It just cracked me up. I've never heard you say that particular thing. But it's something that, I felt like that's what I do, is like, I'm talking all of the time. And even before I started on radio, that felt like that was one of the biggest things that I did to connect with people as well. And when this opportunity came along for myself to be on the radio, every cell of my body, Megan, like, just felt like it was having an orgasm. Every cell. I've never felt that kind of vibration happen. And I'm like, oh, my God. And I was so excited. And then, a few minutes before I started the first show, I was so incredibly nervous. I come to know now that I was super excited and grateful. And just for what I know now that I was feeling, back then I just thought I was really freaking scared. But what I know now is what I was feeling was this overwhelming gratitude to really be stepping up, to be leveling up in my world and in my life and in my business, and having the opportunity to have my voice out there where I could connect to other people and I could share with them things that maybe I've gone through, and where I could maybe support them and guide them and offer them someone else's experience so that they didn't feel alone. And, that's just been, it's so, I love the fact that as we're using our voice, and when we really, yeah, Marion says in the chat room, who cried? I cried. I literally cried for the first 15 minutes of my first radio show. So if anybody thinks they can't do radio, I've been doing radio now for 9 years. You can cry on your first show and still succeed. I was just in this massive overwhelm. But what I really love, I really want to talk to people about tonight and share with them is that, this is one of the quotes that jumped out of me about a year ago, and it's been kind of ringing so strongly in my head, and it is, until you add your voice to the conversation does not truly begin. When we talk about people's experiences and what people know, and inviting people to share and speak up, a lot of people are really scared by that, about the idea of speaking up, and possibly being judged. And yet, when I look at, so I'm in the Bahamas now, as you know, Megan, and Hurricane Dorian just flew by a week ago, and there's I'm on Nassau Island, and this island was not directly impacted by the hurricane, and yet, there's a lot of people connected to the people that were directly hit. Of course, they're the sister islands, so there's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of upset. There's you name it, the emotions that are going on right now. There's people coming in here. There was a whole bunch of people that came in, and they're actually the people that from the U.S., a group of people that came in to assist with the recovery of the people that did not make it. And listening to these people last night was a conversation I never heard in my life. And yet each of them speaking and sharing what they know is going to change the way that these people in such a tenuous situation are cared for. And so if one of them does not speak up with what they know, then what's going to be the impact for, there's going to be less than contributions for the people around them. And I think that if each and every person understands that there's something that they know that most other people don't know, their voice contributes to changing the world and creating the world that we all deeply know is possible, or at the very least desire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I would piggyback one other component to that, which is that when you have something in you that's in your body, like an energy, could be a knowing, it could be something you need to say, right? It's like, like this, I really feel like I am supposed to speak this right now and don't freaking want to, or whatever, that stuff, that fear of being judged you talked about. And if you look at the way that I'm going to go a little bit science, but if you look at the way that energy works, meaning it's basically got an in current and an out current, an inflow and an outflow, right? If you look at electricity, right, there's a positive and negative current, whatever. So if you have this current running through you that has words attached to it and you don't say it, you actually stop the currency inside your own body. And so what happens is there's no reciprocity. There's no movement. The circuit is left hung out open, so to speak. It's like an open circuit, right? Which,
right.
We get electrified over time. If we don't speak up and we don't speak up and we don't speak up, there's generally a tsunami that happens a lot of times, because there's this energy that's not getting to move. There's this currency that's not getting to move forward. And so what it does is it literally suppresses our life force. It literally makes us tired, makes us depressed. It's we lose aliveness. If you think about the word current, circuitry, this is all like electricity, right? It's all energy and motion and aliveness. And so when we don't speak what is in our heart, being, soul, body to speak, we literally back ourselves up. We leave the currency, we leave the reciprocity, and we leave aliveness. And so there is the piece of if you don't say what you know, then that person might not, that might be a gift that you have no idea that person requires, and it might change their life. So there's that. But actually what we do to ourselves when we don't speak up is far worse in many cases, because we literally can create dis-ease by not speaking.
Right. Well, I love the way you put that. I mean, I've always known that I didn't have that science information the way that you just said it, but I often, in coaching with people, especially women, where they're frustrated or they're very depressed or they feel like, they don't know which way to turn, they've often gone through their lives holding things back, and then when they have their period, when they're more woman than they've ever been in that month, they explode, right? They just go, right? How many people have not done that? And then, because they're blowing up what they want to say as opposed to just speaking it, and they're blowing it up, they usually leave dead people in their wake, and then they go back into the self-judgment, see, every time I talk, I create a fight or this or that happens, so I better be quiet. And then they push it down even farther and farther and farther. And, if we could start to honor ourselves and honor that voice that's trying to come through us, I truly wonder how many happier marriages we would have, how many happier relations we would have, how many happier job creations we would have, and prosperity, health and financially and everything. I mean, whether you do it for a living like you and I do or not.
Well, in my work with the Gay and Katie Hendricks, now Gay Hendricks is a Fortune 500 consulting company, and he actually worked the numbers of how much money was lost by people not saying specifically just what they feel. And so all the subterfuge that goes on, right, to go, okay, I'm pissed that you did that. So then there's all this like backlash and all this dance and drama. And like he actually made a calculation for how much companies can lose, and actually in a couple of places was able to identify like millions of dollars this company lost by having this policy of we don't talk about personal things. Right. And so the same is true for relationships. Like they had one of the principles in their relationship is like if you have something happening in the relationship and that person is in front of you, you should say it within 7 seconds, because it creates this what they call withhold. And when you withhold, you tend to withdraw. And when you withdraw, you end up projecting. And that's where all drama comes from, is the lack of speaking up. Now, there's a lot of ways to speak up. It's not like, you did this to me. That's not the kind of speaking up I'm talking about. But when there's something really true in your heart that you need to speak, like the damage it does by not speaking it is like crazy, like financially, emotionally, in every single way.
Right. Oh, my God, this is so good. Okay, we got to jump to our first break, Megan, because you and I could talk nonstop for hours. So, and especially now that you have your voice back. Yay! All right, everybody. You are listening to Megan Sillito and myself, Christine McIver, here on the Inspired Choices Radio Show on the Inspired Choices Network. When we get back, we're going to continue to talk about speaking up and how that is actually your prosperity creation on tap. Hang around, everybody. We'll be right back.
Many of us make choices in our lives based on our past experiences or what others believe. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire for our futures? When you join Inspired Choices Radio Show with holographist coach Christine McIver, you'll be provoked to look at what is true and what you know but may not choose that requires your attention. Christine does not hold back and brings all her expertise during each and every show. Are you ready to create the life and the living you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is Inspired Choices Radio Show with holographist coach Christine McIver. To participate in the program, call in the U.S. 815-880-8255. Canada 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine at inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
All right, everyone, welcome back, or welcome forward, or just welcome. Tonight we are talking with Megan Sillito, and we are talking about speaking up. So, Megan, we have a question in the chat room from Marion, and she wants to know if we have some ideas for shy or quiet people to speak up about their businesses, naturally quiet or shy people. Any tips? So what comes to mind for you?
Well, first of all, I want to say that shy is a judgment, and it's not necessarily real. So it's like that even to answer the question, I'm going to be reinforcing that idea that shy is a thing. Now, right? And so I would say that, like, really for people who see themselves that way, or introverts or whatever that is like kind of go, okay, like if I didn't have that label, right, what would be my authentic way to communicate? What would be the most preferred way to connect and communicate? Because, I've been around a lot of shy people, and you get them one-on-one and they don't shut up because they don't ever talk anytime else, And so it's like really, I think really just like being willing to let what's moving through us move through us, and just asking like, what is my way? Like, yeah, I'm not, I'm kind of the loudmouth in front of the room a lot of times, right? But a lot of people, their way is more quiet. And like, I know a particular facilitator that I'm thinking of, who doesn't talk very much, but when she talks, everybody listens because it's so profound. She kind of takes the most necessary thing and says it. Like, she doesn't talk fluff at all. But if she says something, and she's actually very quiet, she doesn't speak very loud, so you kind of have to like, perk your ear up.
Lean in.
And you have to lean in. Yeah. And so that actually, I think, can work really well if you're like, if you don't have a very loud voice or whatever. But like by saying what's essentially really true to be said, people will start to listen because they're like, whoa, where did that come from?
Exactly.
And they'll start leaning in.
Yeah. Well, there's two things I want to add to this. One, please know that if you're someone who isn't the loudmouth at the front of the room like Megan and I often are, there are people that will connect more with each of us rather than the other person, right? So there will be people that are going to be on the same energetic level as you are. There are going to be people that are more attracted to someone who's maybe a little more reserved, or they're going to be attracted to people that are a little more overt. And so please know that wherever you are at, if there is something inside of you that wants to be said, if you really feel like you can't barely contain it, please know somebody is waiting to hear what you have to say. And you may never know who they are or why or any of the rest of it. I've done a lot of radio shows over the years, and there are times where, especially when I was on Voice America, where they didn't have a chat room. And I often wondered, is anybody really listening? And I would get responses from people, emails after the fact, and sometimes months after the fact, and they would comment about a particular show, and I was like, wow, okay, people are really listening. So that's one really, really big thing is just know that you've got something to say, that you're really feeling pulled to talk, not really sure what to say. Sometimes just following that nudge and beginning will allow the opening for what is desiring to come through. And the other thing is that, truthfully, if you are someone who's a little more reserved or quiet, people actually have to be quieter to listen to you. So you actually end up commanding the stage more.
Yep.
So, Megan, maybe you and I should turn it down a little bit.
Good luck.
Yeah. No, that's not going to happen.
Roger, Rostro. Oh, my.
So, let's talk about... Go ahead.
Let's talk about what?
You go ahead. You were about to say something.
I don't know what it was now.
Okay.
That was
right.
like 5 seconds ago.
Squirrel.
Squirrel.
So let's talk about the prosperity and the creation funnel. There's something that you said to me when we were talking, I think it was a couple years ago. You and Suzanne had done a testimonial for being on the network. And before you did the testimonial, you said to me that doing your radio show while you loved contributing to others, that it was doing something profound for you as a speaker. Do you recall what you said?
I think it had something to do, because this is something I really believe, is that when I speak something to an audience and I share a principle, I share something that I've learned or that I feel is true, even though I might still be testing it out and experimenting with it, that holds me accountable to what I'm saying. And it's like, and I don't know if that's what I said back then, but that is one of the things that the show does for me, is it holds me accountable to my path of consciousness. Because, and you probably know this, the same is like every time I do a show that there's some kind of challenge that I may not even be aware of with that topic, that'll be like so in my face. It's like going to see a coach every week and having to be accountable for what you're putting out there.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. I've come up with some titles like, I don't know, over the years, some really like, are you having a difficult time with your lover? And then the next week I'm like fighting with him, in advance of the show, just so I had enough content for the show. but I love that what you've said, that the piece that you had really said to me was, as you are showing up, consistently showing up and really having to be present with doing your radio show, it continued to sharpen your awareness. It sharpened your capacity to be very present. And when we are wanting, a lot of people want to be speakers and they want to go out there and they want to speak, go on a speaker circuit. If they don't have an opportunity to do it very often, they can be very nervous or not feel as polished or comfortable, not polished as in perfect, but comfortable in just speaking to a group of people. And the one thing that you said to me was that it just kept turning up your professionalism, turning up your capacity and your comfort with speaking.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I would add to that, too, that at the time I started with this radio show, I was looking to really go online because, as I said, I built everything. Most of what I built was in Salt Lake City, and I didn't really know anything about the online world. Like, I barely had started an email list. Like, I was not digital at all. And so as you know me, like, I thrive in my live events. I thrive in in-person things, and I really am somebody who loves to, like, get with the people. But I also, if I was going to have a global business, I had to be translatable digitally. And so I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to connect to an audience I couldn't see. I didn't know how to connect to an audience on, like, a webinar. I didn't know how to do what I did so well in person, right, digitally. And so this was my practice of, because, like, we have people in the chat room sometimes, but a lot of times it's like you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know who's listening. You can't see their face. You can't tell their postures. And this was another way that it increased my professionalism, because it helped me learn how to tap the consciousness and the energy of the show itself and the energy of the people who were listening and maybe would be listening. But it helped me tap an energy that was outside of what I could see and hear. And I got to practice my voice from that perspective. And, like, I recorded an audio CD of a workshop one time, and I did it professionally in a booth. And the first 20 minutes, if you heard it, you'd be like, that's not even Megan, because I had no idea how to talk to nobody. I had no idea how to have my voice inside me actually be strong without bouncing it off an audience. And so this platform really helped me create that that professionalism so that I could speak in all ways, whether someone was in front of me or not.
I love that. You've never said it that way before. I just love that. It's incredible that, you know, we live in the time that we do, that we have this opportunity, Megan. I can remember when I started in radio in 2011, people would look at me and go, "You're doing what? A radio online? What?" They didn't understand that, and that's less than 10 years ago, right? Like the people, the professionals out there, the speakers, the people that have wanted to grow their businesses, they literally had to grow within 50 to 100 miles radius. And we live in a world, we have opportunities today that have never been available to us, and speaking to people around the world. Like, you've had people invite you around the world because they met you through your radio show, right?
Yep. Or they heard of me through the radio and got on a webinar, and then, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like that really, I would say that was truly the beginning of me reaching more of a worldwide audience. And with this last program that I did, I actually didn't know, Imprinting for Riches, that you're playing in as well. Like, all these people from all over the world hopped in, and I don't even know them. I don't know where they came from. You know what I mean? Like, it's so fun. It's so fun to have your voice go beyond what you can see, touch, taste, and smell. And that was what I was depending on before, right? But, like, it was stopping me from growing.
Yes. Oh, my gosh, that's so good. We are up to our second break, so we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. I'm sure that the chat room is popping. I'm sure that there's a bunch of things in there we're going to speak to. If you would like to call in and ask a question, please feel free. You can connect with us through Skype, Inspired Choices Network, and you can also call in from the U.S., 815-880-8255. In Canada, 613-800-8736, or join us in the chat room and ask some questions at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back with Megan Sillito and myself.
Many of us make choices in our lives based on our past experiences or what others believe. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire for our futures? When you join Inspired Choices Radio Show with holographist coach Christine McIver, you'll be provoked to look at what is true and what you know but may not choose that requires your attention. Christine does not hold back and brings all her expertise during each and every show. Are you ready to create the life and the living you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you ready to have pleasure with your business? Yes, I said pleasure with your business. The Pleasure of Business a la carte will surprise you with topics like meet yourself in the boardroom, money, services, and you. Expand your visibility. The pleasure of communication. The pleasure of Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Christine McIver has so much pleasure with business and loves teaching all things business. Beginning a new business? Desiring to expand a current business? Or looking to resurrect a business that has been dormant? This program will get you fired up and bring more pleasure than you have ever imagined. Exhausted with your excuses for not creating a phenomenal business? Join now for all the pleasure with business. Pleasure of Business a la carte gives you total choice for what you desire and what your business requires. That's 24 weeks of different topics to choose from with weekly calls, audio and video recordings, and PDFs. This class will have you dive right in and use tools to create the business that has been speaking to you. Go to inspiredchoices.ca for full details or join the Facebook page Pleasure of Business a la carte. Now is the time for you and your business.
This is Inspired Choices Radio Show with holographist coach Christine McIver. To participate in the program, call in the U.S. 815-880-8255, Canada 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine@inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We are here with Megan Sillito, and we're talking about speaking up and tapping our prosperity. Megan, before we jump back into the conversation, what's going on in your business, and where can people connect directly with you?
Best place is either through Facebook, so you can just go to Megan Sillito, and that is also the name of my website, megansillito.com, SILLITO, MEGAN. And what am I up to? Christine? Right now, I am running Imprinting for Riches, the big adventure, which is really about returning to our authentic blueprint for wealth, and being rich requires that we fully be present on the planet. So, there's just an amazing group of magicians from all over the world getting in alignment with their spiritual riches and getting that into an embodied form here on the planet. Time for the spiritual folk to have money, boys and girls. So that's one big thing. And actually, registration is going to be open for a few more days. I was going to keep it open till the 15th, but I might do it an extra few days because I was out of commission for a couple of days. But you can still join that program, and it runs through to the end of the year. It's just, it's blown me away. And probably,
okay.
Back to our conversation, it's the most successful online program I've ever done. And to be able to deliver that much power digitally, I never thought was possible. And I feel so excited and proud of it. It's so awesome.
Yeah, because you're doing you did the 22 days, and you did a live every single day. The lives, my friends, were supposed to be 20 minutes long. Well, Megan couldn't stop talking, so they ended up being usually between 45 and 60 minutes. I think there was a 90-minute one in there too, and I could see you. I was watching you. I could see you tapping into more and more awareness each and every time you were doing these lives. So you actually opened your mouth, was creating more content you weren't even aware of. Am I correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to go through 22 days.
You need to which?
I need to take the 22 days because so much came through that I wasn't really cognizant of. But I think that's one of the power of the voice, is that when you actually just are willing to speak what you know, then more of what you know comes in that you don't even know you know.
I know exactly what you mean. I was actually listening. I had our shows on the network, and how they play one right after the other, and all of a sudden I heard somebody saying something. I'm like, wow, that's really good. And then I kind of totally tuned in, like, who was it? And it was me. And your example, I'm like, I said that? I didn't know I said that. And it's really interesting as you continue to lean in. And now you're doing, 2 or 3 lives a week and a Zoom in the Imprinting for Riches, the big adventure. And it is a fantastic course. It is by far the most resourceful and expanding and challenging. Like, it's challenging each of us to really step in more and more and more to the adventure of our life. And I'm telling you, I've made some choices over the last couple of weeks because of what we've been creating in that group. And I'm happier for it. And I know that it is creating more and more prosperity in my life, regardless of whether I see it immediately in my bank account or in my relationships in these 10 seconds. So it's a great course, my friends.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. You good?
I was just saying that oftentimes when you do deep change, and this is this is relevant to this conversation about voice, but when you go through deep change, and long-lasting change, you really have to do it from the inside out. And that doesn't mean like instant gratification all the time, and sometimes not for a little while. And so, I appreciate that. And you know what? I mean, the first stuff I spoke when I opened my mouth wasn't all that profound, but I kept opening my mouth and more stuff came through over time because we developed these things. We developed these tools and these practices that allow more and more and more and more to come through. And when you align with that, the physical begins to come into alignment. It's kind of like when you go on a cleanse, right? Generally, the first 4 or 5 days of a cleanse, you feel like crap, right? Because you're letting go of everything that does not work, all the toxins. And so it's just a really deep level experience like that. And some people have manifested a ton of money, and some people are in that deep interchange place. And that's the nature of transformation. And that's the nature of also voice and like really like being willing to develop one's voice, to develop one's style and message. And you know what? It might be clunky at first. You might not be all polished. And, or you could be like me. I've been doing it for 25 years, and I'm still like I feel like I'm still super unpolished in a certain way. But like what's coming through is stronger, and my messages are becoming clearer. And it's just that inside and outside is matching more and more and more as I just continue to open my mouth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. One of the big things that I started to discover in speaking and doing speaking gigs or being on the radio, being a guest, I've been in a couple of summits as well. And I'm not somebody that writes out my radio shows, and I know that you're not either. And I encourage, when I'm actually educating and bringing new hosts on, I really encourage them not to do that. First of all, it's not so much fun to listen to somebody who's reading from, copy. And second of all, they miss what really wants to come through. And what I have really learned in doing these speaking, and I've learned who I am. I've gotten to know me more and more and more through the willingness to step forward and start talking. And the producers will tell you so many times, I'll come on and I've written the title and I've written the copy, and that may have been several weeks ago, or it could have been last week, and then I'll know that this is what wants to be talked about, right? And I'll come on, and we have like 5 minutes in the green room before we come in, and I will say to the producers, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. Like, seriously, no idea. Will you come on and talk to me? Because I'm kind of nervous. I don't know what I'm going to say. I can tell you that in 5.5 years or however, no, 9.5 years, I've never not fully spoken through the entire thing. So you get, right? You get to know yourself, because if we're holding back and we're not exploring our own landscape within us, and we keep following the patterns and the belief systems and the habits of what we've done in the past, and we don't get uncomfortable and dig a little deeper, we're not going to discover what we've come here to speak to, what we've come here to share with the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I just had an experience at a speaking training of having to, it's one thing to have a topic, right? But in this particular scenario, we had to get up and just be, and just like look everybody in the eyes and actually talk from what we received from the audience without any any prep, without nothing. And it was freaking amazing, the stuff that would come out of us, come out of each person, that was just profound. You know, it's like, man, there's just all this treasure in us. Like, you know, like, we got to get it out, because if we don't, the world's not going to have it.
Exactly. And you know, Lori Phoebus, one of your friends, and a woman that you had on during the 22 days. I'm now a super fan of hers. I've got to tell you, I've got this book beside me through my whole adventure here in the Bahamas, and I just keep rereading it and rereading it. I'm loving it, and she speaks so much to the fact that we chose to come to Earth. It's a game. We're playing a game, and we wanted to come play, and we wanted to discover, and the more, you know, if one of the things she says is the more that if we feel like we've had these really big challenges in our lives, it's because we came to play big, and the rewards are going to be equally large when we really get in and start to play. And what you talk about all the time is how much play contributes to our lives and how much play contributes to our awareness.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I think that's another way of discovering ourselves, right? Because the stuff that comes through play, and like the stuff that kind of comes through as I'm like futzing around, reading, journaling, whatever I'm doing, and it's like boom, like this idea appears right out of nowhere, and it's like I think that we've been so trained to do the right thing, say the right thing, don't do the wrong thing, don't say the wrong thing, that we've lost our ability to discover ourselves, right? Because we're so afraid that it won't be good or it won't be right. And it's like, and what if, you know, that willingness to fumble and bumble and play and tinker and muck about could reveal, like, ourselves to ourselves, you know? And I think as you know, facilitators and coaches, I think we do that every time we do a show, every time we have a client in front of us. Like, I know that's true. Like, in this program, like, every time I open my mouth, I learn more about myself. You know, it's like that. Mm-hmm. Also, I think speaking up is the willingness to get to know myself in front of another person.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all the vulnerability. We never know what the hell we're going to say.
Right. Exactly. I remember when I first started coaching, Megan, I would be so concerned about, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? What am I going to, and I was having nearly panic attacks. Like, what am I going to, you know, what value am I going to bring to the table? As if I had to have an exercise prepared or something like that, like a teacher, right? And then after I would be finished coaching with the person, I would spend a couple of hours worrying that I delivered. And I don't remember when it finally switched. And I was just like, you know what? They're choosing me. I just got to show up and be me. And I didn't even know who that was, really. But my gosh, it was such a more generative experience for both of us in the relationship that I was willing to allow whatever needed to come forward and allow my intuition and my awareness to really speak through me. The experiences and the prosperity and the growth, I can't even tell you from, you know, when I first began in 2008 to today, you know, nearly, what is that? I can't even, 10 years, 11 years later, the change in my world is gargantuous. And it started because I was willing to speak. Right. And you know, something that my original speaking coach, Jack Barnard, taught me that I really get on every level is true for me, at least, and for the people that I coach. But what he said is, like, your number one job is to express, like, whether it's, you know, through voice, song, writing, like, express, like, get messy. It's kind of like the artist's way, right? The 3 pages of just express whatever's there. Go. And one of the things we do when that happens is that we get the fluff off. We get the stuff we're holding
that's holding our real stuff down. Sometimes we get it out, but by that expression, over time, we start to develop our voice. And as we develop our voice, it kind of leads to a style. And then all of a sudden we start seeing what we're talking about, and we look back and we go, oh, these seem to be my themes. These seem to be the messages that I am and have for the world, because I believe that every soul is essentially a message, that every being is a message, or maybe a billion messages. But like, even as, me, who is like teach and coach on a billion things, right? If I really look at it, my message really has to do with that there's greatness in each of us, and what is it like? Let's get it out. It's cool. Let's get it out. And whether I'm talking about leadership or money or magic or whatever it is, it's really, that's so much of my message. But it's really taken me 24, 25 years to start really seeing that that's my message. But that had to do with being willing to express when I didn't know what the F I was doing, right? I remember the first time I taught a class, you're going to laugh. I sat with a manual, and there was 2 people in front of me, and I read out of the manual. That was my first class, for real, me. And I couldn't stand that anymore. That was the last time I ever used the manual, right? But I was willing, like, every week to show up and teach. And show up, even when I didn't think I had anything to say. And if you keep doing that, you will start finding your voice, and you'll start finding your path, and you'll start finding what it is you have to say to people.
Exactly. So true. I love to hear when I first start to hear a radio show host and to hear them start to speak and step out, I am just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. What she is sharing, what he is sharing. I get so excited when they're beginning, because they're excited about what's coming through them as well. And I just think, my gosh, we've got another voice contributing to the world. We have another voice stepping forward with what they know. And most of us, like you say, when we step forward in the beginning, we're tumbling and we're tripping. And I often say, would you be willing to completely screw this up? Would you be willing to fail so beautifully that we laugh really, really hard later? And would you be willing to cry for the first 15 minutes of your radio show? Yes, I will. Megan, we have 2 minutes left. I just can't believe this has gone so quickly. I love having this conversation with you. It's one we've had a little bit here and a little bit there over the years, and I'm so grateful for everything that you are willing to choose, because in you choosing it, you're an invitation for the rest of us to choose as well. And you sharing that globally, I mean, if you hadn't chosen to step up on a radio show, we wouldn't have our relationship. We wouldn't have known each other, because we live in 2 different countries, right? And we get this opportunity because we show up somewhere where we can do that globally.
Mm-hmm. I know. Lucky us. And we just keep showing. I mean, our voices connect us to the world, right? And that's really what you're speaking to. If I hadn't have tapped you on the shoulder and said, hey, I'm nobody, but I want to be on your radio station, like, it started this whole beautiful conversation that's expanding into the world.
Oh, Megan, you tapped me. What was our radio show about tonight? It's all about the tap. It's all about the tap. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. I look forward to having more conversations with people out there. Please connect with Megan at megansillito.com, or definitely on Facebook. You can connect with me at inspiredchoices.ca. And if you'd like to know more about bringing your voice to the world, reach out, Christine at inspiredchoices.ca.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Inspired Choices Radio Show. Christine McIver will return next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, be willing to choose what you really desire. This is your life, making the choices that bring you all that you desire.